YouTubers and dramas like peanut butter and jelly. It's an iconic duo that everybody knows of, and that is what today's video is about. Now, this drama is, it's not even really drama, but it is drama in the sense of, well, come on, it's beef between two YouTubers because that's what this has turned into, but I will get to it in a second. So this all started earlier today on the tech side of YouTube when tech YouTuber Gamer Nexus released a video calling out Linus tech tips for problems with their accuracy, ethics, and responsibility, and a whole bunch of other issues that I'll try to give like a little brief summary of, but I'm going to link the video in the description below if you want to check it out after this video, because it's 44 minutes long and I'm not going to go over all of it because you should watch it yourself because it goes a lot more in depth. I just wanted to highlight a couple points and point out that Linus himself has responded, in my opinion, a bad way. So a lot of the video covers pretty much what's in the title, and I think that's a very important thing. This is just a blanket statement. This doesn't even have to do with the video itself, because I think this is just something I want to put overall as like a general statement, especially for big content creators or people who get put into a position where now they can run businesses, they have multiple channels, they have a large following, they get a shitload of views. I feel like when you get to that point, I feel like there's a big due diligence, whether or not you're a business or a corporation, just a person in general. I feel like there's, in my opinion at least, there's a level of due diligence on your side to make sure that the information that you report, the things that you talk about, whatever the case might be, you have made sure that you did a lot of research on the topic that you're going to talk about and the information that you're going to present. This is a situation I see happen to a lot of big channels from time, especially commentary, since I watch a lot of commentary channels. There are things that I might see get reported, things that might say this, things that might say that. And they were like, well, I saw it off this first article, and so I'm gonna just go with that. Because let's be real here, there's a lot of commentary channels out there, and most of them, even including myself, I'm not gonna lie, there's times where 30 minutes or at most of research into a video, dog. Because, like, let's just be real here, that's pretty much what it boils down to. A lot of commentary channels are pretty much, hey, I read this article, I looked through a couple of this shit, I put a couple things in here, and that's it. And that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's a lot of people who don't want to read articles. By the same token, if that's what you're going to do, at least make sure that the articles that you read are, accurate, and that, you do your due diligence and you check more than just one article and you see that all the information cooperates with each other and that, what you're saying is actually true. Because there's always going to be things that are incorrect or wrong, but the goal is to try and minimize as much misinformation as possible. Also, to add to the fact that the bigger you are, the bigger the influence you have on the audience, especially depending on how many views you get daily. If you're turning these bitches out like crazy every day and you're getting 500,000 to 1 million views every fucking time, that one error / mistake that you might make in one video, if you keep making videos every day and then you keep having those mistakes multiply, think about how many people are going to see that, especially if you don't even go to your comment section, you don't go to your about section, you don't description and try and annotate and say, hey, we fixed this, or hey, this is wrong, this is incorrect, or just updated this information even though I made this video earlier. When you don't have any of that shit and people just see the raw video itself, and the fact that most, if not all, big creators have very loyal fan bases that will take anything they say as fact and they won't even bother to look into the topic themselves, that's pretty scary. Because if you make one mistake, and let's say it's a very big one, and you don't correct it, then my God, think about how much misinformation you just spread. And again, this isn't me trying to call any specific creator or any channel or any genre. I know I've mentioned commentary, I just use that as an example because those are the type of videos I watch the most, but it goes for any YouTuber in general. It doesn't matter what genre you are or even how big you are, really. I know I emphasize mainly on big creators because I think there's a lot more damage to be done versus a small creator, but it still applies for anybody in general, even myself. If I get shit wrong, let me know. Tell me straight up, I'm fine with that. I have no issue with it. Just don't come at me and say, bro, you're fucking stupid as fuck, you dumb fuck. Don't come in my comments saying that, because you will get clapped into the shadow realm. But if you come in, you let me know, nicely and tell me, hey, this actually isn't correct. You can go here and you can find more information on that. I appreciate that. Thanks. And I know there's a whole big copium response that I see a lot of big YouTubers say as well too, is, well, I'm trying to get it out there because, it's a hot topic. And so, either you're first to the game or you're last to the game. And you know what? Why be last when you can be first? And you know what? Hey, we all make mistakes, but I'm not a news channel. So who gives a fuck if I get a couple things wrong? And I'm like, that's a shitty attitude, because if you're a big fucking YouTuber and you already get a fuckload of views, who gives a shit if you're, let's say, a couple hours late because you want to do more information research or something, or you waited a day to talk about it? Guess what? You got so much pull that it doesn't matter if you talk about a day late. Anyways, I've gone off track a little bit too much. All right, back to the Linus Tech Tips Gamer Nexus shit. So the purpose of the video is to call out a lot of different things that Linus Tech Tips as a company has been doing in a lot of their videos, which has pretty much been boiled down to they have had errors, they have made blatant errors, they don't really do their due diligence. They had a situation where they auctioned off a prototype that was sent to them, that they were asked to be sent back to the company that originally sent them that prototype, but instead they never gave it back and they sold it off. And then Linus made a response, which I'll tell you that in a couple minutes, but his response was awful. But let me play you part of that clip so you get a better understanding of what I'm talking about.
Making matters worse, in conversations with Billet Labs, Gamers Nexus learned that the company asked for the prototype back on June 28th. This would allow them to send it out to other media or use it for further development. Linus Media Group agreed at least twice to return the product. The first time they agreed to send it back was June 30th. At LTX, Linus Media Group put the one-of-a-kind water block up for auction at its Extra Life auction event, without the permission of Billet Labs. Billet did not learn of this until around August 11th, at which point it was told the block is gone. Again, this is despite LMG agreeing in late June to send it back, as LMG would have no further use for the block. Billet told us that it is now stalled, as it no longer has its best prototype available for continued development.
Now in that entire video, that was one of the biggest highlights that everyone has been talking about, is pretty much gone everywhere. Like, a lot of people say, you know what, data, numbers, all that, you know what, Linus fucked up there, we get it. But this is fucked up, because I'm going to play some of those clips a little bit later in this video. But one of the biggest problems that people had alongside selling that cooler when they shouldn't have, because it wasn't their property to sell, was the fact that Linus shitted on that same product without even following the instructions or even using it properly. So he pretty much said it was a piece of shit. This thing doesn't work. I don't recommend you buy this because it's not good. It's not worth your money, even though he didn't even use it correctly. And then when he was asked, you know, whether or not to spend more time working on it to try and get accurate reviews and to get accurate information, he's like, fuck that. I ain't spending money on that. What? Well, I'm going to pay $300, $400, $500 more dollars on employees to work on this and get more information to do it properly? Are you stupid?
About 5 minutes of rambling, the conclusion effectively was, lol, it still sucks though. Linus then, after publicly humiliating and trashing the work of two guys just getting their start in business while relying on zero effort to examine the thing correctly, complains about how he'd have to spend $100 to $500 more on an employee's time to test it properly.
But I'm not... I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time sitting and engineering a workaround to a product that, no matter the result, nobody should buy.
And so that was pretty much the crux of it. Linus was like, well, the product still sucks. Whether or not we did it properly or not, who gives a fuck? Because you shouldn't buy it, man. And for us, I mean, yeah, we got valued at $100 million. And yeah, we're probably making some decent amount of money. We're probably doing pretty well off. But you know what? That $400, $500 that I would spend in labor, I'm not doing that. That's for what reason? What's the point? So I can do accurate data? What? You know, that's pretty much how I perceived it. And I think pretty much everyone else perceives that. That's not a good look. I feel like that's really shitty. And this comes from someone who's actually a big fan of both Linus Tech Tips and Gamer Nexus. To see Linus say shit like that, especially considering the whole circumstance and how the situation played out, that's not good. That's pretty shitty. Now, earlier in this video, I teased you that Linus replied back to all the things that were said in the video, and he had a response to it. And personally, I don't think it's a good response at all, even for, I guess, corporate, not really corporate PR jargon. That's not really that either. It's just someone saying, hey, you know what? We all make mistakes, buddy. But let me go through some of the statements for you. So this is the post that Linus did 4 hours ago, addressing the whole video and trying to clear up everything and put his own take and his perspective and what he thinks of how everything went. So he starts off by saying, this won't be a big when shown segment about this or anything. Most of what I have to say, I've already said, and I've done so privately. To Steve, the person behind Gamer Nexus, I expressed my disappointment that he didn't go through proper journalistic practices in creating this piece. He has my email and number along with numerous other members of our team and could have asked me for context that may have been proven to be valuable, like the fact that we didn't sell the monoblock, but rather auctioned it for charity due to a miscommunication, and the fact that while we haven't sent payment yet, we have already agreed to compensate Billet Labs for the cost of their prototype. Now, I'm gonna stop it there real fast because in my opinion, that's kind of I wouldn't say it's a doo-doo response, but it is, because saying that you auctioned it off for charity doesn't change the fact that you sold it without permission. It's not your property. It's not your IP. It wasn't given to you to keep, and you were told multiple times to return it. That is a big no. That's a big oopsie. I would be pissed if I was Billet's Lab and something like that happened. And then following the other part that he talked about journalistic integrity and being reached out to beforehand. Wow, that's very interesting because look at this.
Company founders posted below the video and stated this, quote, "We love LTT, but it was difficult to watch their criticisms when pretty much every design issue that Linus raised was done for a reason which was all explained to Adam weeks ago. None of which, I guess, was fed back to Linus. We also sent a full instruction manual that seemingly wasn't used. I think there's definitely been a major communication breakdown along the video pipeline. We assumed we'd have a chance to answer any problems that were raised and explain them before it being publicly misrepresented."
So in the same vein that he wanted Steve to reach out to him so that he could get his own PR statement and get everything, neat and tidy for the video so that they have a proper response and everything looks, kumbaya and great. Well, they didn't do the same shit for the Billet Labs. They never reached out to them and tried to make sure things were going properly and that, hey, you know what, we're actually following the instructions and let's clear any miscommunication on the product. And they could have been like, hey, you're not using this product properly. Here's how you're supposed to use it. And guess what? It would have cleared up a lot of miscommunication and a lot of errors before the video went live. Wow, crazy. You want people to do one thing, but your company's not doing the other. You can't sit there and want it like this, man. You got to have it go both ways. He continues on by saying, to my team and my CEO's team, but realistically, I was at the helm of all these errors, so I need to own it. I stress the importance of diligence in our work because there are so many eyes on us. We're going through some growing pains. We've been very public about them in the interest of transparency, and it's clear that we have some work to do on internal processes and communication. We've already been doing a lot of work internally to clean up our processes, but these things take time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but that's no excuse for sloppiness. If that's your outlook, that's how you see it, then you shouldn't even sit there and say that we all make mistakes. We're trying to get this fixed. You just say, hey, we fucked up. We're going to get this better. We're fixing this. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's all really I think that needs to be said. To sit there and say Rome wasn't built a day, Rome wasn't built in a day, I think that's unnecessary, and it's kind of just trying to deflect a little bit and say, hey, we know this is kind of fucked up, but hey, this shit doesn't get fixed overnight. We're gonna get this shit fixed eventually. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, hell, it might not even be next month, but we'll get it fixed eventually. Just say our company fucked up, we need to do better, we're gonna start actually taking this shit more seriously. We have a lot of internal practices and processes that we're working on establishing so that this doesn't happen ever again going forward, because we know that you trust on us to give you reliable, inaccurate, and truthful information. That's all you need to say. But adding the Rome wasn't built in a day, motherfucker, what? Now, for the sake of this video's length, I'm going to spare you the rest of reading through this and then trying to just go back and forth. But pretty much it's just like, hey, I fucked up. I'm sorry. Some things could have been done better. I don't agree with everything in the video. For the most part, I don't agree with any of it because they would have reached out to me. I could have given them a better answer. I guess a response that would have been seen in a better light before the video went released. But that's pretty much what it boils down to. I think it's kind of poor, in my opinion, not to address this in the WAN show, especially because of how big of an issue this is. And the fact that the video already has over 1 million views and it's going to keep gaining more views as time progresses. And if more people talk about this, but I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of a responsible time. I don't think it's a terrible response, but I think just doing this in the text post on your own forum isn't exactly the greatest way to address these issues at hand. And personally, one of the suggestions that I've seen people say is just have Steve and Linus do a one-on-one, have an actual discussion, open forum, and talk about it live. I think that's probably the best way to go about it instead of just doing this and saying, hey, you know what, I wish people would reach out to me so we can handle this privately. I get that on one side that is a good thing to have, but I do think on the other hand that, to sit there and reach out every time you're going to do a piece like this, you as a company is not obligated to have someone reach out to you. Yes, you could say it's in good practice and journalistic integrity to try and get all sides of the story before you make I guess as he calls a hit piece, but at the same time, you as your company needs to do better as well too and reach out to people whenever you have a video that you're making, such as the Billet Labs situation that I showed you earlier. So it goes again both ways. And I also think that it's unrealistic as well too. Think about every time someone makes a video that's like a video essay, you talk about XYZ, this person, that person, this one. Imagine if you had to reach out every single time for someone to give you a comment on whatever you're talking about, especially in a 44-minute video. And so you ask for a comment on this part, this part, this part, this part, this part. You might also just say, hey, I'm making a video that's talking about all the bad shit that you've done. I'm criticizing you. I'm doing it in good faith, because that's exactly what the whole video is. It's not even a hit piece as Linus says, even though he's already said multiple times on the WAN show that typically he doesn't watch a video in full. He just asks someone for the cliff notes or he reads comments to try and get a gist of what the video is about without actually watching it all the way through, which I think is very poor. He might not have done it for this video, But going by his track record, I have a good feeling that, especially by his response, that's probably what he did. But again, as a company / corporation, you are not owed someone reaching out to you to sit there and say, hey, we're making a video on you. We're going to be saying all this shit. What do you want to say? Again, you can sit there and say it as in good practice, journalistic integrity, I guess, or being a good journalist. But it's not required. You don't have to do it. It's just doing something in good faith or just doing it out of kindness. Anyways, I just want to talk about this because it's currently big news, big drama, if you will, depending on how you want to see it. Gamer Nexus doesn't want to call it drama, but you know how YouTube is. So they're going to call it anyway. And so I just followed the flow and I title it drama as well too. Anyways, yeah, you made this far into the video. Consider giving a like, subscribing to the channel. Leave me a comment below what you think. Have a great day.